All right, all right. Welcome back to Father Talks. I am your host, Mike D. Today with me, I have the man, the myth, Mr. Skyler Hunter. How are you?
Mike, what up, man? It's good to see you, man. It's a
Good,
pleasure
man.
for you have me on your platform. Thank you for this.
Hey, listen, man, I am excited to have you here. I've been watching you. I've been watching everything that you do through, pretty much, sitting on the sideline watching you through social media. I see stuff that you post. I've been watching the comedy stuff, and just it's like, man, I don't know, I don't know how you find the time to do all the stuff that you do. Hey, I'm sitting at the house trying to get a couple things done. I'm like, damn, it's 12 o'clock already. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, when I was like I said, when I watch you, doing all this stuff, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, this man has got some extra energy that I need some of.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot, man. It's a lot to bear, but I just see it as I'm walking to my purpose, though. So I'm really appreciative of the gifts that God gave me, man, and just being able to utilize them. So that's all.
That's what's up. All right, let's we're gonna jump right into this because you got a lot going on, and I do not want to miss anything. I don't want to leave nothing out. So let's talk. We're gonna talk first the comedy. First off, I always knew you was a funny dude. All the time we hung out and whatnot, but I didn't know you was that kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I don't
what
think I
the
knew.
comedy been like?
Yeah, it's been cool, man. So comedy is probably something that I should have been doing many years back, right? I mean, I grew up
Okay,
in the neighborhood kid clowning around, the class clown in school, but I don't think I've ever had the courage to actually get in front of people that I wasn't familiar with and
okay,
actually perform, right? So, um, you know, it kind of came about one night. It's something like I say, I always wanted to do. It was the COVID year when COVID happened.
okay,
That
bet.
caused us to sit down and settle down, right? And I went to a comedy club, and I'm saying if it was maybe 10 to 12 comics on stage that night, 10 of them sucked, you know? So I figured that I would give it a try, and I figured I couldn't do any worse than what they had did. So my homeboy,
How long have you been doing comedy now?
it's been 2 years now since
2 years.
then. It's been two
Damn, it's been
years.
that
So
long.
yeah. Yeah, it's been two
God,
years,
man.
man. Yeah, so my first open mic, my guy Dre, shout out to my guy Dre, Petty P Productions. He was hosting the open mic. I came out. So many family and friends came out as well that night, and I mean the jokes were just landing, and I was on my way. It happened that night, and we haven't looked back. We just been rolling since then.
That's what's up. I know before we finish the show today, I want to make sure that we put a little something out when your next show time is, so everybody knows whatnot. Because we've been talking about it for a minute coming out and to see you and whatnot, and life has kept me kind of busy. So at some
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
soon I got to get out there and come see you before I get big and them tickets really get expensive. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
so. But that's what's up though, man. I love to hear that. All right, so next thing we're gonna touch on the DJing. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
man, like where did it come from?
That was another thing that happened during COVID. COVID really was the birth of a lot of things for me. And,
Okay,
you know, once COVID hit, you remember we were only allowed maybe 5 to 10 people inside of a house or something like that.
right.
And one of my boys was having these little garage parties. And he went out and brought a mixer, and I was just playing around on it one day. And as I'm playing around, I'm mixing the songs, and the whole party is dancing and they're vibing, and um, I was like, man, I gotta go buy me a mixer now,
Right.
So I went and I got one, and just using it around the house and doing backyard parties. But once I had got into it, that led to people wanting to book me to come DJ their party, and so it's been that's been about 4 years now that I've been doing that. Um, Went out and got the equipment for it, and it was an investment, right? So from backyard parties, and I'll be doing my first wedding this summer. So it's getting to bigger venues. I had the pleasure of DJing for motivational speaker Eric Thomas
Really?
at a lunch that he did for Detroit Public Schools in Detroit. Man, it's been awesome. You never know where it can lead you to, right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, and I understand that, man. But like, so 2 years ago, I started this podcast thing, and I was just
Hmm.
not in the right headspace, to do it. I did a couple of episodes, and it was just audio episodes and everything, just me sitting in the office, and I'm like, you know what, I ain't really feeling this, So I just stopped. I just stopped doing it. The episodes just sat there and everything, and then like just a couple months ago, really, I just started. I'm like, damn, you know what? I enjoy this. I'm having a good
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I like even just sitting around talking with a couple episodes ago we sat down and we talked about Windsor football.
Yeah, I
And
watched that. I like
yeah,
that.
and how hey, these kids they need more. And it
Hmm.
was it was a good time. I got a couple of parents that messaged me and everything. Hey, talking about, hey, can you guys do another episode? And really, can you touch on such and such and such? About these kids getting more opportunities, so on and so forth. But I mean, as well as I do. Both, our I don't know how long if Skylar played in Windsor, but Trenton played in Windsor for a little while, and I found that the coaching it wasn't terrible, but the competition level wasn't good
Hmm.
enough,
Yep.
and the kids just it was always about the coaches. It was never really about the kids. It was about the coach who had the best winning record and all that, or these coaches putting kids in positions that they shouldn't be in because hey, this is my buddy, you know, it's my buddy's kid, so hey, we gonna put him here, and he ain't got a clue what he's doing. So,
Yeah,
but
no, I agree. Skyler. Well, my son Skyler, he did 2 years, and when he was 6 and 7, so he started off really young with it. But yeah, those same exact sentiments that you shared there. I watched the episode too with you and the guys, with you and your sons and Coach
yeah,
Ilya, and I agree, man. It just didn't seem to be a level of enhancement for the level of play in Windsor. So it was necessary for me to challenge my kid and put him in a better environment to where he could grow, by being challenged. And we moved over to Detroit Pal, and he ended up shout out to the Detroit Spartans. He played over there until his ninth grade year. He went straight to high school, playing on the varsity level. But I credit that to his little league playing, his coaches there that invested so much into him and challenged him in so many ways. He faced a lot of adversity, and that carried him through. It definitely did. It definitely had him prepared.
right. And that's one of the things that I tried to pass on as a coach, man, is that you want them to face adversity. I mean, football is one of the hardest sports kids are going to ever play, and if you can rise to the occasion in football, most things won't be an issue for you as you become a man.
Hmm.
Because you understand. You know what? All right, I'm sucking right now, but this is what I got to do to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, yeah,
So and
yeah,
I just found that a lot of kids, as soon as they face a little adversity, especially in the game, and I'll say primarily most, in Windsor,
hmm
because so many coaches kowtow to the kids instead of coaching them. They're like, oh man, I need this kid on my team, so I'm just gonna let him do whatever, so he stay on the team. You know,
yeah, yeah.
which
We,
don't
we
set them up for much.
we saw it a lot in Detroit too, though. Some kids were
Okay,
just talented already. And
right,
it wasn't a lot of coaching or development in that. And then you see these kids as they get to the next level, they fizzle out.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah, because they're used to
because
they're used to everything being catered to them because they're the talented kid. As soon as they start, dealing with some adversity, game
yeah,
over.
yeah,
So,
you're bigger, you're stronger than everybody at this age. But then once everybody catches up in size, that kid just didn't
right,
perform on that same level.
on that same level, right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
all right, so let's move on. So, I heard you got a book coming up.
Yeah, man, this is near and dear to me.
Okay,
I wrote my first book, and this also was birth. I mean, I think pretty much everything started for me. Life started for me when life slowed down with COVID. You
right,
know, that gave me a lot of deeper inner searching within myself. you had nothing to do. Because I think prior to that, I was just so busy with life, and so much running around. So now that I had a chance to actually sit down and be still, my thoughts just kept playing on me, and I was just figuring myself out. I was looking at the things that was on my heart versus the things that society was telling me was the proper way of going about. So it challenged me in that way, and so I had a lot of deep conversations, speaking on the phone every day to my mom. Shout out to my mother, and once I started having these thoughts of seeing what I was doing, I was pretty much living a life for validating myself for other people's opinions,
Right.
which I
I can.
thought could be a very common thing. Yeah, so I just started writing, man. I just started writing things down, seeing the way I was looking at things then and how I'm looking at them now. And it kind of started to show me that I was more so in tune with what everybody else's opinion was than I was myself. I was a people
Okay.
pleaser.
Okay.
So I kind of just wanted to put that information out there in a book form. I titled it Performing Live, because when we are in front of a crowd, we tend to put on this mask of happiness when we're really sad inside, or we put on this
I get.
this
I get
level of
that.
toughness when we're really gentle, right? And so it was important to me to share those thoughts, just because I know if I was going through that, I'm sure somebody else may have had those same common factors as well.
And that's a fact. That's a fact. I know.
Yeah,
I've never. I grew up. With parents that my parents are Southern. And they're back from that generation where kids are seen and not heard. So we didn't have that kind of relationship where we talked about emotions, feelings, none of that. Boys didn't cry, and that was the end of it. So I just dealt whatever issues. But as I became an adult, you know, it was always no emotion this, super tough on the kids, and come to find out, I'm dealing with a lot of personal issues that kind of, from my childhood essentially, that
yeah,
came
yeah,
out, as a father, and I think that now as a grandfather, and things are just I'm just I realize that I don't have to be so uptight. That's what it
yeah,
boils down
yeah,
to. You know,
yeah. Not
I
at
can.
all. And I mean, a lot of it goes to where we are in that moment for it, right? I
Right.
mean, because we do have this masculinity thing as men that we always have on display, but same thing for my kids. I raised my kids with tough love,
Yeah.
but then there's a lot of moments where my kids come to me in their inner thoughts and their feelings, where being masculine in that moment is not helping them.
Right.
I need to be soft. I need to be gentle. I need to be in tune with what it is that they're expressing at that moment, right? So it's really, you have to be what you are for what it requires of you at that time.
Right. And and that's and I'll take that a step further, man. So I've been I knew Trenton was getting ready to head off to college, and I have been on him, man, on him about making smart decisions and so on and so forth. Like, listen, don't get in the car with nobody drinking. Don't drink and
Yeah.
drive. I said, man, homie, boy, if you need me for something, come and get me. Call me. I said, I don't give a damn what time it is. Call
Yeah.
me if you
Yeah.
need me. And last weekend, man, he was out. He was out at a college party. Everybody was drinking, but his buddy left him because he was drinking and driving. He was like, I'm not getting in the car with him. So he stayed. He actually stayed the night out at uh, Central Michigan and that with some other friends, and called us the next morning. Was like, hey, I need you guys to come get me. This is what happened. And I mean, as a father, you mad as hell that hey, you're gonna spend your Sunday driving, but at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
deep down,
Yeah.
that he listened. That he heard all that stuff that you was talking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yep.
constantly,
Exactly.
constantly, I'm constantly lecturing them and whatnot, and to see that come to fruition, like damn, them conversations help. You know,
Yeah. No, it definitely does, man. I mean, our kids are definitely a reflection of us.
yes,
What they learn in the household is what they're going to go out in the community and display, right?
yeah,
So that's what's shaping our communities. That's what's shaping, our schools. It's the children that we're putting inside of it, right? And that's been one of the
right,
biggest compliments that I've received from many different parents, who allowed my kids to come around their kids and spend the night and bring them in as
Yep.
family. So many responses of it of just saying like, man, your kids are so mannerable.
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
joy having your kids around, and that's a proud compliment for me to hear the things like that.
Well, and when I hear stuff like that, I'm proud, but at the same time, I'm like, they talking about my kid because
Yeah,
when he at home, I got to keep telling,
yeah,
I got to remind him 30 times just to take the trash out. You know,
absolutely,
and, you know, and
absolutely.
he and everybody else would be like, oh yeah, he volunteered to help with this and volunteered to help with that. I look back at him like, what the hell? Because I
You
can't
know
get you
that,
to
that
do none of that at the
yeah,
house. You
that's
go to everybody else's house and do it.
it goes a long way with that, right? And that's just the relationship I had with my son, my older son Deuce, and we have a great relationship. But it would be certain things, and you've dealt with them, right? Like I
Yeah.
can tell him to do this,
Yes.
and he'll give me attitude, and then you can turn around and say that same exact thing to him, and he'll be
Exactly
yes
how you said it.
sir, no sir. So I think when it comes to we had it out one day where we were kind of having a back and forth with each other,
Yeah.
and he just flat out told me, he said, I need you to be my dad, I don't need you to be my coach.
Right.
I need you to be my dad, and it is a difference of the two. you
Right.
know you have to connect with him on that level, right? Like I have to meet him where he's at for his emotional needs.
Right.
you know
But the fact that he was able to tell you that and you to hear that and not be offended.
right.
Because and
Yeah,
I can tell you, me 15 years ago, had my son have told me something like that, I'd have been mad as hell.
yeah. Yeah,
Only
I think that, yeah, it becomes though, right? Because he was saying something to me once, like, as he was getting all his stuff ready for graduation from high school, and he's like, well, this is my first time doing this, and this is my first, and I'm like, and this is my first time too. Like this, I've never been a father before.
Yeah.
I've never raised a son. I never had a son graduating from high school. Like, we're
Yeah.
we're in this together. We're learning together on the fly. You
Right.
know, so
And,
it's
and I
it's an experience that you learn from.
Right, and I think as black fathers, man, you know what? A lot of times we get a lot of bad raps. People are like, "Oh, black dudes don't take care of their kids." And I mean, but statistically, black men are there for their kids, especially when they're not interfered with. You know, and I don't want to misquote and whatnot, but the statistic is like, you know, some ridiculous amount of where black men are always involved with their kids when
Yeah.
there's no outside interference. You know,
hmm
so when people, you don't have any family drama or you let's without getting into specifics, but when you don't have a crazy ex, I've been there a few hundred times. So when you don't have stuff like that going on, you can just be a dad. And I
Yeah.
don't think people realize this. There's a huge difference between being a dad and being a parent. Because
hmm
when you're constantly parenting, you don't get to be a dad.
Yeah.
When you're parenting, you're constantly, making sure your kids are doing this, making sure your kids are doing that. You don't just get to enjoy the ride of seeing their accomplishments, what they've done in school. When they come home from school, you don't get to have just a conversation. You got to be on them about, hey, why am I getting a call from school today? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. For sure.
and
For
so
sure.
now, I understand the difference between being a dad and being a parent. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, I enjoy being a dad much more than, constantly squawking and being on, everybody about what they supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, when the best piece of advice that I got from being a father was before he was even born was just be there, be
Right.
present.
Be
You
present.
know, and I think that's the thing is we don't understand or realize how much our presence means in our kids' life.
Exactly.
To go through all of life challenges with them, right? It's not about what you're buying for the kid. It's not about what you're doing for the kid. It's about being there, right? So, um, I think that's just the thing, right? When these kids grow up and they become older and they look back and they reflect, they're going to remember you in those moments,
Yeah.
right?
Always. My dad's always
You
in the
know,
stands. My dad was, my biggest cheerleader, so on and so
yeah,
forth.
yeah, just being there, right? And I think that was one of the lessons I learned was I tried to give my kid everything that I didn't have growing up, you know.
Okay.
growing up, we weren't a well-off family. I didn't have the privilege of having toys and action figures and all those things.
Same.
Before he was even born, right? I had went out and brought all these action figures. I brought my son every action figure you can think of. And you know what he did with all those toys? He had the vent open, the heater vent on the floor.
Yeah.
Somehow he got that off, and he dropped every single toy down the vent, every single one.
I bet you played with that box though that they came
Yeah,
in.
but yeah, for sure, right? But that was my childhood. That's not
Yeah.
his.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing, right? Like we give our kids what it was that we missed out on life or what we have interest in, and we don't take the time to let them grow and develop who they
Right.
are or
Yeah.
find themselves.
You see, and I think that was me early on because I didn't have any real family guidance when I first became a dad.
Hmm.
So I didn't have anybody I could lean on, people I could ask questions to. So I'm doing most of the stuff on the fly. I don't want to say that, I did it wrong or that I regret, this, that, and the other thing because all of those things shaped me to be a better father.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
just wish that, that I was more in touch with, my emotional side, my ability to, express myself without being mad, you know,
Hmm.
but I felt like, a lot of times, as a young dad, all the decisions were on me. I mean, you and I have never, we've never talked about this, but so my oldest daughter was actually involved in an accident. She was 13. She was 12, turning 13, and she was hit by a semi on I-94 out in Baltimore and whatnot. This accident shaped the type of parent I would be, for the rest of my kids. And after her accident, it was always, kids couldn't go anywhere by themselves. They had to check in every hour, every 2 hours at most. And they didn't have cell phones, so wherever they were at, they had to come back to the
Yeah,
house and check in. But it really put a damper. It changed our relationship, the dynamics of my relationship with my other kids because I became such a hard ass because and it wasn't that I didn't care. It was just that I was so afraid that something else might happen,
yeah,
you know, that, hey, you guys are always going to be together. And this way, somebody will be there, for each other and somebody can get to me, so on and so
hmm,
forth. So, and like I said, man, it's been a learning process. It's taken a lot of growth. And I mean, if I'm being honest, I did a little bit of counseling and everything,
yeah,
to get
yeah.
in touch with, certain issues and that. So, but I mean, it's nice to hear that, hey, I'm not the only dad that, tried to make his kids' lives better from based off their own childhood, you know.
Yeah, because again, we don't have the handbook, right? We don't
Right,
have the
right.
manual to show. We just jump right into it, and that's important to find those things out. But again, you're going to learn as you grow through it.
Right.
And you do have the beauty of seeing the example made for other positive men that before, like a lot of my friends, their fathers played a huge role in my life. So I got to see that. I got to see that picture. But at the same time of it, you're still dealing with different challenges, though. Like as you
Exactly.
say, now our kids they have cell phones. We didn't have cell phones. We were outside running around, and Lord knows the type of trouble we was out there getting in.
Exactly.
You know, so it's a whole
I
different dynamic now.
Yeah, and I know you're from the generation that, hey, have your butt home when them street lights start
Yep,
to come on.
yep,
So you
yep.
could be in the middle of a fight. Okay, you hear that street light start buzzing, be like, hey man, we
Yeah,
gotta go.
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
pick this up next week or something. Then,
yeah,
hey, I'm
yeah.
not about to get grounded for the rest of the summer behind you.
Nah, no, because yeah, my mama will show up. My mama will
Yeah.
pull up to where you were, and I
Yes,
mean,
sir. Yes, sir.
you will catch a beat down right there in front of everybody.
In front, I
you
was
know,
just about to say, and my mom was like that too. She did not play. When we go to the
yeah,
store, I dare you to act up.
oh yeah, oh
I dare
yeah,
you. Okay, because
yeah. We
my
knew
mom would
better.
grab you by the cheek, just drag
Yeah,
you on through the, was that oh my God, through Kmart and whatnot back in the day.
yeah,
And my
yeah,
mom did not care. She did not play. You know.
yeah. We got the
Uh,
pregame speech in the car. As soon as we pull in the parking spot and put the car in park, first thing you say, don't ask for nothing, because you ain't getting nothing. Yeah, you knew better when you walked in that store. Act up if you
right.
want to.
Yeah. And like me and my brother laugh about it now, man. But like my mom would go into the grocery store and leave us sitting in the car. It's like, don't get your ass out the car. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
we ain't getting out the
yeah,
car. But
yeah.
it's hot. So
Yeah,
what would we do? I never heard of kids dying in the car when I was younger
yeah,
because we got the hell out.
right.
We'll be looking around the corner, making sure my mom ain't come. And as soon as we see her, we just get back in the
You
car,
know when
roll
to
the
get
damn
back
windows up. Yep.
in.
What y'all been doing? Oh no, we just been sitting
Yeah,
here. Yeah, nah, no, the hell
absolutely,
we ain't. We got the hell out the
absolutely.
damn car. It was hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
So
a different time, right? So yeah, that's the thing with adjusting. That kind of goes. The correlation of all these things, even in sports, right? Like, I mean, watch how football was played in the '90s, right? You had the fullback, you had the running back in the backfield, double tight, but now it's adjusting to where now it's a spread offense.
yeah,
Where it's five receivers out there now. You want to use the whole field, and it's just evolving. But it's the same thing
right,
in life. Like these challenges that we face, they're different for our kids. They're facing a whole different set of challenges, right? And what you alluded to earlier, just in regards of not being able to be in tune with your emotional side of it, that's so detrimental, right? Because now we react to things and we go off on things that we have no idea what's bothering us. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I mean, because I can tell right now, and I know especially with my older girls, if they hear this video, I know they're gonna watch me like, yep, see, we told you, you was just mad because. And but the thing is that I never learned how to express myself in a way that wasn't anger. And
yeah,
growing up in
yeah.
Jersey, like I had a cousin, man. Literally, I fought a kid every day for 5 days. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my cousin told me on
Mm-hmm.
that fifth day, if you lose this fight, I'm whooping your ass too. And
Yeah, yeah,
that's how we grew up. But I tried not to be that way with my own kids. You know,
yeah,
like you fight
yeah,
if you have to, but don't. It's not going to be something that hey, if you lose a fight, that your dad is going to whoop your ass or something.
yeah, yeah. It's different levels of trauma with it, right?
Right.
And I think even of it on the softer side of just your kid feeling like they're not good enough in your eyes. And I see so much of it. I see parents negotiating with kids. If you score 5 touchdowns this game, I'll buy you your favorite video game.
That's
The kid scored 1 or 2 touchdowns, and the
right.
dad is upset with him. So
Yeah.
now it's creating this detachment, because it's that your love is being based upon performance.
Right.
It's not
Well,
being based upon who you are.
right. Well, and I found that, through coaching, I found that 70% of all kids who quit organized sports for one or two reasons. It's because A, parents are mad, not have turned the sport into a job, kids don't enjoy it, or B, coaches don't engage them. They pick all their favorites and whatnot, and a kid who
Hmm.
might really have some talent isn't being dealt with at all. So now
Yeah,
that kid, by the end of the season, was like, you know what? Nah, I'm done with this. I don't want to play no. But it's
yeah,
always one of those
smart.
reasons.
Yeah, I had a situation where my son was young, and we were just driving across the border to go to football practice, and a custom agent, he asked me, he said, how do you like coaching your son? And I told him I don't coach him. At the time I was coaching 12U, he was on the 8U team, and coach had him, I mean, the custom agent had a moment. He just started telling me he played baseball, how much he loved playing baseball. And he said
Right.
his dad was his coach. And he said whenever another kid hit a double or hit a single, he celebrated them. But
Yeah.
every time he went up to hit, and if he didn't get a home run, it was not good enough. It wasn't good enough in his dad's eyes. And I'm trying to go through customs, and he's sitting there like just staring into space. And he's like, man, he was like, I haven't played baseball since. He's
Really.
like, I never played baseball since. And I'm just trying to get out of customs. I'm like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I go? But that type of thing, like we don't think of the impact of those decisions or what it's making on our kid.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
I can tell you now that man, I learned early, when I coach my kid, that to separate dad and coach.
Yep.
And I think the first year that I coached, I watched a lot of guys interact with their kids, on the team. So it'd just be dads just watching and everything, and the dads, they would just be so hard on them and whatnot. I'm like, man, we just out here to have fun. And listen,
Yeah.
this is minor league football, okay? This
Hmm.
there's no contracts, there's nobody, this isn't gonna mean that they don't get a college scholarship if they don't win this season, okay?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about right now. This is about just basically developing the love of the game. That's
Yeah.
it. So and there'd be a lot of times, man, where I would if my son was acting up, I wouldn't say nothing. I let other coaches handle it because I don't want dad mode to switch on. Now, I done cuss him out in front of everybody and everything, and he don't
Yeah,
want nothing to do with it.
yeah,
And I've been
yeah.
I've been pretty fortunate with all my kids when I have had to coach, whatever and help out. I've always been
Yeah,
pretty good with separating dad from coach. And I never play favoritism with my kid. If another kid beat him out, hey, you gonna have to do better, homeboy, because you
yeah,
don't play because you're my kid. You
yeah.
know,
It's that, man. I've stopped coaching my kid at 7. I don't think I coached him since then. Now
yeah,
we've been on the same team for 2 years, but I was completely hands off from him. But yeah, I think I told him to do something. He didn't do it, and we're arguing with each other. We're driving home. I got my back to him. He's got his back to me, and I'm
yeah,
like, I'm not about to go home and not have a relationship with my 7-year-old son because of something that
right,
happened on the football field, right?
right.
Like it's
And I would, and I wish
it's
more
not
people
there.
got that, man. I wish more
Yeah,
people
yeah,
understood that. You
yeah.
got
It's a lot being put. It's a lot being put on. It's a lot of pressure being put on these kids to again to perform.
right, and a
And
lot
we're
of
not
parents are
seeing
living
it like
vicariously through their kids. You
living
know,
vicariously, right, and not even realizing what is doing to them, right? Because at the end of the day, right, how long are you going to play this sport?
right.
You know,
You could
even
you
if you
could
make
be
it
that
pro,
guy. Yeah,
you
but
know,
even that, yeah, but even if you make it pro, how many guys have you seen, careers get ended, you know, an injury that, an injury that may have started off as nothing, now has become something, careers are over with. What do you
yeah.
got
I
to show
mean,
for it after that?
yeah, it can become detrimental, right? Because these kids are training and they're preparing
Yeah,
at like 5, 6 years old.
yeah,
They're investing everything into this sport. And then they
right,
get to their senior year, who knows what can happen, right? An injury, academics,
right,
anything at that level, right? So you've been investing everything you had for like these last 13 years of your life, and now it's over.
right.
There
And
is no
again,
more
a
ball
lot
to
of
play.
kids, my oldest boy didn't want to go to college. He joined the
Yeah.
military. He was like, hey, I'm done with school. He joined the
Hmm.
Air Force. That was his thing. My middle son, hey, he took a year off from football. Ninth grade, he was like, you know what? I'm just burnt out. I just need a break. And
Yeah.
then he picked it back up later on. And, that was his choice. But ultimately, it was his choice. It wasn't mine, for both of them. Yeah, it was not my choice to decide. I always, like I said earlier, I always try to advise the boys, my kids, period. You just try to advise them. These are your options. What do you feel is going to be best for you? And I
Yeah.
think that's made them all, pretty independent, you know, whereas they can make decisions on their own.
Yeah. And how will they know if they're not being exposed to other things? You
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. So, um, all right. So let's get into work because I know you do a lot of stuff at the school.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So I work as a behavioral specialist, behavioral interventionist, and working in the school system, we deal with a lot of different behaviors. It's a day treatment school for kids that's labeled as emotional impaired.
Okay.
So man, you see behaviors from you name it. It's whatever. You never know what these kids are walking into that school dealing with.
Right.
And it's a wide range of things, right? So our role is to connect with that kid, try to find a way to keep the kid on task, come up with some type of behavioral plan to where we hold them to the standard, and it's definitely God's work for sure.
Right.
It's definitely something that's challenging because again, each kid has a root problem that you don't see. You're just seeing the surface.
Right.
You know, so you see a kid come in the
You're dealing with
classroom.
them.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Oh no, no. I was just
Um,
gonna say. So you're dealing with them at school, but you don't
yeah,
know what underlying issues might be there, at home.
yeah, yeah. You can see a kid acting out, and kid just didn't eat anything. He's hungry. You
Yeah.
know, but again, goes back to not knowing how to express yourself. Or it could be a situation now where a teacher calls on a kid to read a chapter or read a paragraph, and the kid may not know how to read. So instead of being humiliated, throws a fit, starts kicking over chairs and throwing furniture or things of that
Right.
matter, right? So,
And I can tell
um,
you, I was one of those kids. I was one of those
yeah,
kids.
yeah, yeah,
But my
Yeah.
issues, I had a lot of anger issues growing up. And, I mean, it wasn't like I had a significantly bad childhood. Just I was a boy whose ass was just always in trouble.
No,
That's what
I
it was.
mean, same for me. Like I say, I talked about being a class clown.
Yeah,
I did a lot of fooling around just for attention seeking,
right.
right? Because I was getting the attention at school that I wasn't getting at home.
Okay,
So when I got to school, this was kind of my playground. This is my opportunity to perform in front of an audience.
okay,
You know, so yeah, we all go through it, but it's so many different levels. You
right.
know, and that's where
Yeah,
I think we have to make that connection at. So we move that way with the kids, and it is a lot that you have to work through. Um, but again, it's a root problem that's causing these certain behaviors to come about. You know,
so with this program, what's like the age groups that you deal with?
so at my day treatment school that I work for, it is K through 12. K through 12 is for Redford Union School District, the K through 12 program.
So now, is there you guys run into place in situations where there has to be some emergency interventions? Hey, you know, kids got
Yeah,
whatever going on. Okay,
yeah. We got social workers. If things become too aggressive, there's a school resource officer. Um, it's all hands on deck, but all hands on deck is required for sure,
right. Okay,
for sure.
outstanding,
Yeah,
outstanding. Okay,
yeah. But the best thing about the school though is, man, you can't beat the school schedule.
right,
You summer off, man, and it's needed. It's definitely
right.
needed.
Yeah, but though, man, listen, I I will tell people, and I will to death. Teachers don't get paid enough to do what they do. you know, and even, I mean, teachers who had to deal with my behind, back in the day, I don't feel like they made enough. So dealing with what's going on now, like,
Yeah,
I can't even imagine. I can't even
yeah,
imagine,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you get kids coming into school, and I'm just thinking of when I was in high school, talking to teachers crazy as hell,
Yep,
and it's
yep,
worse now, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. I think it's a lot too because there's so much technology that these kids use.
Yeah,
They got Chromebooks, they got iPads. Like, they don't even they can voice record memos. You had to write all this stuff out back in the day. They got Chromebooks. I was just happy back in my day to have a Trapper Keeper folder.
right.
Like that was good enough for
And
me.
enough
But
damn pencils and shit.
yeah, right. So it's some stuff is all a lot of stuff is just digital.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that like so the honestly, so the boys didn't learn cursive. We taught them that at home. Because they weren't teaching it in school. Like, how was the kids ever supposed to
Yeah.
sign anything if they're not teaching them basic cursive?
Well, you got to teach at home too. Like I say, it goes back to what the kid is learning at home for what they're going to be in the schools, what they're going to be in the community. A
Right.
lot of these schools I find because my kids went to grade school in Canada. They went to King Edward School, so shout out to King Edward, phenomenal school over in Windsor. To where both of my kids transitioned to high school to Detroit Catholic Central,
Okay.
which is just a phenomenal institution. So, but what I've learned growing up is they weren't teaching Black history in the grade school, or I don't even know if they teach it in Canada. Period. You know.
Not to the degree that we might have learned it, but I
Yeah.
found that I was teaching my kids Black history, but not just the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the
Right.
general, like the stuff that we tell
Yeah.
everybody because
Oh
everybody
yeah.
knows that. You
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
that was a big thing. You and I discussed it earlier. We were talking about it earlier before we got on.
Yep.
I am big on learning about where I came from.
Yep.
So like me and my daughter talked about it, like I said earlier, that what we just want to know, we want to know more about our heritage. Hey, customs, we're Nigerian and we want to know, hey, what more about Nigerian history, Nigerian culture, because black people in America, we don't have our own. We
Hmm.
yes, okay, you grew up in Mississippi. Okay, but that's not where you're from. That's where your people, ended up at. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
those aren't, that's not your culture, your history. It's deeper than that. And
yeah.
for me. I want that belonging.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely that, right? Because you get exposed to a lot of different things, and I think that was definitely my personal story of it. Like I grew up right in Detroit, but I spent my whole life in Detroit, and then once after high school, I had the opportunity to go play ball in New York, and but where my heart was at was growing. I grew up every day going outside playing in the neighborhood, and I thought this was life. I thought this is what's up. I thought this was, it couldn't get no better than this. And I didn't realize until I went to New York, and shout out to Hudson Valley. I got there, and New York is just the most diverse place I can think of, and you saw some of every different culture walking around. To where I didn't realize where I was coming from, it was segregated.
Yeah,
You know, I didn't pay any emphasis on it until I actually went somewhere else, and I saw how they live.
right.
So
Yeah, see,
now I started to establish friendships with all these different cultures where I was just learning more and more. Where in my high school, everybody was black. My neighborhood,
exactly.
everybody was black.
Yeah, and see, I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey. And everybody was black.
Yeah,
My grandfather was part of one of the founding members of Cycle Cleans in Jersey and whatnot, and that was what I grew up with. Motorcycles, junkyard. Hey, I'm old enough to remember that I would walk to the corner, grab cigarettes from my grandfather from the bar, and bring them back, and that wasn't a big deal. That determined what kind of kid you were.
yeah,
But when my mom met my stepdad, we moved here to Michigan. It was a whole, I mean, you talking about a life change. Like, first off, I had never seen so many white people in my life,
yeah,
in
yeah,
one
yeah,
place, because I was a big time minority, by the time we were living over on Sulphur Air National Guard base, there was like 8 black kids on the whole base. I'm like, holy shit, what the
hmm,
hell is going on? Where's all the black
yeah,
people at?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. You don't know until you get exposed to it. And I thought for me it was beautiful though because, like I said, I grew up in this black neighborhood, but we went to a predominantly white church. To where we're still members there today, Christ Church of Redford. Um, but being there, I saw both sides. So I got a chance to be exposed to different families. I got a chance to see like their way of life and how they conducted things, their family values that they had, and a lot of those stuff. It just and that foundation was installed in me. So it gave me a different way of seeing life. But again, I think that's just it, right? We have to get exposed to different things. We got to think outside the box and see things differently.
yeah, getting out of your neighborhood, I find that you develop a broader sense of things, of what the world is, because you're not just on your block anymore or just in your
Yeah,
neighborhood. Like becoming a military kid for me was actually, man, probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because
yeah,
I got exposed to so much different stuff, different people. Everything wasn't just Trenton, New Jersey.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
you mean to tell me this shit going on outside of Trenton? What? So, um, last, man, hey, I want to touch on your nonprofit, your nonprofit work.
Yeah, so shout out to my guy Jonathan Orr, former NFL player. He
Okay.
started up a nonprofit organization called Athlete Transitional Service, ATS. So with the nonprofit, it's just talking to student athletes about finding not a plan B whatsoever. It's staying within your sport, but it's also what else are you good at? You know, so who are you when you take your jersey off? What's your identity? And if you're identifying yourself as a basketball player, as a football player, again, you're basing yourself off of what you do, not who you are.
Okay, I like that.
Right? You're basing it off of a performance. So we try to speak to student athletes in a sense of finding their true identity, but playing your sport, but also finding your other gifts and your other passions that you have as well. So when kids can tap into that other lane, again, it gives them their self sense of identity. versus them saying, hey, I'm a football player, I'm a basketball player. So again, it's just kind of focusing on more so who you are, not what you do.
Right. I love that. So, I'll tell you what. I definitely want to I want to follow up with you again. Uh, Show dates. You got any that you want to share with anybody?
Yeah, the next show right now will actually be in Toronto.
Okay.
That's going to be November
Damn.
29th. Yeah, yeah, it's been crazy because you get to travel with this, and again, it's just great performing in front of different audiences.
Right. Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
November 29th is actually Detroit comedians going out to Toronto, so it's called the What Up Doe Toronto show.
Okay. So I'm gonna
So
make
I'll
sure
have
that I
all the
post up.
yeah, have that post, and I'll have it all over my social media as well. I'll make sure all that flyers and everything gets out for that.
All right, bet. Well, I can tell you right now, I won't catch you in Toronto because I hate Toronto traffic.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy
I
out
mean
there.
yeah, that is bananas. We flew back from Puerto Rico, came through to Toronto. Man,
Yeah,
that is a mess. Okay, that
yeah,
oh my God. Like
yeah.
well,
Toronto's a beautiful city, though, man. It's probably one of my favorite
I
places
got
to
a friend who
be.
lives out there. He's been out there, I want to say like 20 years. Loves it. Would never leave. But
Yeah,
to each his own. So,
yeah.
anything that you want to share with us before we go?
Yeah, man. I'll just again plug the comedy shows. I'm doing a lot in Detroit, Windsor area as well. You can follow me on social media. Instagram is SkyHunt2K. Facebook is just my name, Skyler Hunter. I post all my shows there. Again, just focusing on comedy, focusing on DJing. I also coach junior high basketball over at Redford Union Schools. Um, it's a lot,
I'm tired just
man.
thinking about it.
The nonprofit for athlete transitional services for any high schools that want to be able to connect and talk to their student athletes can also feel free to reach out. ATS Athlete Transitional Service does have an Instagram page. But other than that, man, just grateful for the opportunity you bringing me on tonight. You
Listen, man,
always been a
it's
real
been an
stand up
absolute.
guy. Thank you for all that you
Hey,
did for my kids, man.
hey, listen, it's been a privilege and whatnot. I just, you know what, like I said, man, I'm enjoying this. I haven't gotten good at this yet, but it's a work in progress. But I'm really having a good time. I'm getting to know some people. I'm getting to know a little bit more about myself. And
Hmm.
again, I just want to try to keep, try to keep, try to keep this as positive as possible. At some point, yeah, you know what, we're gonna have to have some adult conversations on here. But
Yeah, yeah,
I love what I'm doing right now. You know,
yeah.
um, I just I'm not quite as busy as you, but I don't think I have that kind of energy right now. But again, man, hey, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. We got to do this again sometime. As things start to get busy, follow up with you, and I don't know, maybe next month, if whatnot, see how things are going, promote some more shows, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate that to the fullest.
All right, hey, tell the boys I said what's up. Hey, and Saint, my goodness, man, I cannot believe that he's already. I can't believe how big he is already. Okay,
Yeah, man, he's a sophomore right now.
bro, I am getting
Yeah,
so old. I am getting
I
so
know.
old.
I feel old with Saint.
Mm-mm-mm. So, but all right, man. Hey, God bless. Take care of yourself. Tell everybody I said what's up.
Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you, man. Love you, bro.
Absolutely. All right, love you too, my guy.